Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Humans on a Mission, where we get to spend some special quality time together. I'll be teaching you how to shift into VIP self care status. So, to be honest, let's face it, we all are VIPs. But the question here is, do we treat ourselves like one? I want you to think about that for today. I'm going to share with you a very special trick slash tool called the VIP balance factors. And I'm going to share that with you today. So let's dive right in. I have to tell you that I'm super excited. I'm always excited, right? About every episode. For those of you who listen to me each week here, you're like, Connie, you're always excited. Yes, I am excited because it gives me an opportunity to share some awesome information with you that I have found very valuable for myself and also for those who I work with on a daily basis. So I have to share this week. I was invited to do a keynote presentation to about 300 school teachers in New York, and as part of my coaching and hat that I wear also, and they asked me to talk about self-care. And I sat there and I thought to myself, okay, self-care, gosh, self-care is a lot, right? It's a really big thing to talk about. And where do we start? We only have an hour together. And how might I leave this group feeling inspired, feeling like that they are ready to make that a priority for themselves, right? So I had asked some of my groups online in Solvolution. I said, what do you think? And I asked some clients and some friends of mine. And so it got me thinking about the word balance. It got me thinking about the terminology that we often use that we don't necessarily connect with the concept of balance because it's so big, right? We have to define it for ourselves. And what is balance for you? So, one of the examples that I shared, I talked about water. I talked about the element of water and how being, in water, there are many drops right together to create an ocean, and water is so powerful. It can move, it can flow, it can get angry, all of that kind of stuff. And to really think about things from a glass of water perspective, right? How many times do we often say to ourselves, my glass is empty, my glass is half full, my glass is half empty, or my glass is full? And one of the key questions that really came up for me as I was putting this presentation together, I started to think about the cup that I drink every day. And it came about because, again, as I was saying, I was asking all these different people, to give me some insight as to what I could share with this group connected to self-care because it's such a big thing. And I thought about, wow, would I drink my own cup of water? Huh. So I'm going to ask you all that today. When you take a look at your cup, and would you say today that the cup that you have in front of you is empty? Would you say that it's half full? Would you say that it's half empty? Everything's connected to perspective, right? Or would you say that it is full? What would you say? And I think most importantly, what's in it? So if you feel as if it's empty, if you feel as if something is empty, then really asking you the question about, well, what makes me feel empty? What makes me feel like there is emptiness? What might I need to fill that? If your cup is full, then what is it filled with? Is it overflowing? Is it too full? Is it filled with things that you want it to be filled with, connected to your desires, things that connect to your heart space, make you, have that fire in your belly? Because if it's not, then it's time to check it. So, water, so simple, right? So simple when we talk about just water, right? We think about raindrops and the ocean and the movement and the flow. And if we want flow in our lives, then we have to look at the water, right? And how the water responds and reacts to what is happening, right, in our worlds. So, would you drink your cup of water right now? And if you turn around and say, well, ugh, it's yucky, I don't need to say anything further because I think it's important for you to think about the fact that if it's yucky and you wouldn't drink it or you wouldn't give it to somebody else who you love so deeply to drink the water, then it's time to clean the cup, right? It's time for us to take a look at the cup. So we're going to step into the notion of VIP being very important person. So I want you to imagine you are in a room right now, okay, filled many chairs. Think of it as like an auditorium. You're going to like your favorite concert and you're the only one in there. And there's this one chair in there that looks like a king or a queen's chair. Okay. I want you to sit in it. I want you to sit in that chair. Let's imagine now that we're sitting in this chair. How does it feel to sit in this chair? Does it feel good? Does it feel uncomfortable? Are you thinking about anything? Do you want to get out of this chair? Do you want to stay in this chair for a really long time? Sit in it. Like sit in it. Sit in the chair. Connect with the feelings that you have right now. You are the VIP. You're that very important person sitting in that chair. And of course, society and, rules, experiences, things like that tell us that this king and queen chair, right, is a symbol. And so we're using that as an identification tool today for our conversation. But I want you to sit in that chair because I'm sure some of you are like, well, I don't like sitting in because I don't like the way, right? Our minds are going to get in the way. I don't want you to think about that right now. I want you to think about the fact that you sat in the chair. And this chair is what makes you unique because it's just about you. You're important right now. You're an important person. You are letting yourself be a very important person. How does that feel for you? So I want you to identify how that feels for you right now in this particular moment and hold on to that feeling. And if it's uncomfortable, feel it. Feel the uncomfortability that you have. Notice it. Don't judge it. It's arising for a reason for you to notice it and not judge it. Let it rise up so that you can connect with it. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we stuff it back down and then we don't deal with it. It'll come back again in a different context. Okay. So feel it, be with it. Okay. Connect with that. All right. So now we're going to shift into what does it actually look like, right? So we started with what does it feel like to be in that space? What does it feel like to treat yourself for a minute? No noise, no kids, no expectations, no responsibilities, none of that. Just you. Nobody else. The room is empty. It's just you. My favorite question to ask humans is, who are you when nobody's in the room? Who are you when no one's in the room? When no one is watching? When no one is listening? Most of the time I'll get reactions that basically say, well, I'm really uncomfortable about that. I have no idea. I don't know who I am without anybody else in that room. For some of us, that's called codependency, but I think it's important for us to really do that, just to notice it, just to notice so that we can inquire and really have a moment and see that we are beyond what everybody else thinks that we are, that we have an opportunity and capacity to really check in with ourselves and really understand and say, this is what makes me full. This is what makes me an important person. This is what makes me very unique. I am worthy and valuable here on this planet, right? All of those things are so important, but we don't do that. Why? Because life gets in the way. Life gets in the way. We get busy. All of our expectations, all of our responsibilities, our own control. We argue with ourselves. Rules, society, lack of, right? When we don't have something, what do? We go searching for something else so that we can fill it because we may not want to deal with it. We may want to avoid something. Not today. Today, I want you to sit in that chair. I want you to feel the fact that you are a very important person. We need you. You have a gift to offer, all of that. So what does it actually look like to treat yourself like a very important person? Okay, so here we go. Ready? So we're going to use the word balance because, again, we need to give a definition for ourselves. And by the way, I would highly recommend that, if you don't know what balance means to you, then I think it's important for you to take a minute, take a piece of paper out, talk to yourself, do whatever, put your notes, take your notes on your phone out or whatever it is and be able to identify what that is for you. Because otherwise we're talking just, you know, out of our ears and not necessarily actually connecting and identifying to our own personal definition, because it has nothing to do with what other people tell us it is. It has everything to do with what we create meaning. Whatever meaning we create with it is the definition for us. And that is the most important thing. Okay. So here we go. B, boundaries. B is boundaries. What do you say yes to? What do you say no to? Take out a piece of paper, put a line down the middle and put down yes, put down no on the other side. And then I want you to say, what do you say yes to? Who do you say yes to? And then on the other side, what do you say no to? Who do you say no to? I want you to see which side is more full. And again, look at those yeses and look at those nos. Do those make sense for you? Do they align for you? Are you looking at those yeses and say, gosh, I really didn't want to say yes to that, but I did it because I needed to, somebody told me to, or just I couldn't say no, whatever that is. Boundaries are so important. And guess what? We get to set them. We get to create them. Nobody creates them for us. And if we don't create boundaries, we continue to feel like crap. And then things happen like codependency, where we get attached to somebody else. We can't be alone. We can't do anything alone. We don't know who we are. That's where I would say refer back to the center of the room alone, right? When we have those. So boundaries, what are your boundaries? And for many of us, this connects to family, kids, spouse, partner, friends, work, colleagues, I don't care, community members, issues that we had that we're really, really passionate about, social media, creating boundaries around that. Time, by the way, is a boundary thing. Excuses are what we create in order not to do something actually that we need, perhaps, for ourselves. So boundaries. What are you saying yes to? What are you saying no to? If those things are not in alignment with what it is that you truly desire within your heart, then guess what? We've got to make some adjustments. We've got to look at the fact that there are negotiables and then there are non-negotiables. And you deserve to have non-negotiables and negotiables. Come on now. When I sit and talk with different people when it comes to salaries, when they're getting new jobs, right? What happens? They pull it out and they do their little pros and cons list, and then they look at their negotiables and then their non-negotiables, and then they get to the conversation, say, "Oh, forget that. I'll throw that out the window," because they're afraid. People are afraid that you may not receive actually what you want. And gosh, what happens if you actually say what you want and don't get it? Do you revert back to doing people pleasing or acting in a way to please others? That's not in alignment with yourself. That's not making you that very important person. If people don't respect your boundaries, that is none of your business. That is their business. They get to choose after that. You are in alignment and connected to your heart space and what it is that you desire, want, and need in your life. And beyond that, everybody else's reaction is their reaction. You have nothing to do with that. I know some of you are sitting there like, what? What do you mean, Connie? All right. So we could talk all day about boundaries. So B is for boundaries. A is for ask for help. Ask for help. I know I've got a lot of team players out here who don't want to ask for help. I've got a lot of achievers out there who don't want to ask for help, because God forbid we ask for help. It may make us feel like we can't do something. Listen, I'm guilty too. I've had this happen to myself as well. I've gone to a place where I've tried to, I want to ask for help, but I don't ask for help. So instead I ended up suffering. When I think about the fact that it was how many years ago? It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was trying to run my business. I was working full time. I was running a wellness initiative, volunteering, this and that. I had 2 little kids at home, and I was trying to make it. I was trying to make it. I was trying to be a successful entrepreneur and do all these things because I thought I could. I didn't want to ask for help because I wanted to do it my way. I wanted to do it myself. Lots of control. What happened? Never asked for help. My body gave up. And therefore, it put me in a position where I had to ask for help. I had no choice. So that's my story. Personally, you have one too. But I think it's important for us to really ask ourselves the question, why do we not ask for help? What are we afraid of when we ask for help? Usually it's judgment. There's a judgment component there, whether it's within ourselves or whether it's the judgment perhaps that we may receive from others. Well, let that go. Let that S go. I don't think I can swear. I was like, I don't think I can swear. Um, let that go, right? It's important to ask for help. We need help. We can't do life alone always. And all we need to do is ask. There are people there that are ready, willing, and able to support us when we need that. And in my case, when I wasn't doing well, I had to ask for help. I had to go to counseling. I had to ask for help from my spouse. I had to be clear about that. Was that hard? Yes, it was, because I felt like I couldn't do the things that I needed to do as a mother, as a career woman, as an entrepreneur. I had to ultimately let things go. And that brings me to not number 3, but it is number 3, to letter L, which is really about letting go of what doesn't align. Do you know what doesn't align? I think that's a big question we often have to ask. How do you let go of what doesn't align? For me, it's a feeling. For me, it's, yes, for some of us, it's intellectual. It's very logical, right? If I want if I want to get from A to B, if there's anything in between that doesn't match my pathway from A to B, then I got to let it go. Right. So that's very logical, right? If I need to financially support my family, if path A doesn't necessarily support that, then I've got to let that go. Right. For others, it may be more of a feeling. It's a hunch. It's our intuition. It's our gut. It's a little nudge that's basically like, I don't know about this. Maybe a little pit in your stomach, and maybe something in feeling it in your throat. Whatever. Pay attention to those. Be curious about it. Don't assume though. And I think that's what we often do is we tend to assume, right? I've got a feeling. That's it. Done. Question it. Say, I'm curious about this. What might this be sharing with me right now? What do I have to pay closer attention to? If you have those nudges, if you have those feelings, and let it go without necessarily feeling like you're attached to it. I don't know. Many of you are sitting here saying probably, Connie, it's so hard to let go. How do you actually let go? It's a process. Being honest, it's a process. I had to get to a place where I had to let go making a certain amount of money. I really did. And how did I get there? I was faced with circumstance after circumstance, lesson after lesson, just to show me in my face that I didn't necessarily need to attach. And then the more that I wanted to control the situation, so the more that I actually let go and surrendered and allowed it just to be and trusted the universe that I will be provided for on a daily basis, things started to shift for me. So let go of what doesn't align. If you want X and it doesn't line up with that, don't do it. If you're tired and you're pushing yourself, if there's a notion of this feeling of like, I'm pushing, right? Or there's a pull, then that means there's resistance there. Then that means perhaps there's a misalignment or not even unalignment there that you need to pay attention to. So keep that in mind. A. So we got BAL. Here we go. A. It's like cheerleader day, right? A is attitude of gratitude. When we wake up every day and we have a moment to express our gratitude and appreciation for what is going on in our lives that we are thankful for, things start to shift. I've got to tell you, I had to practice this one really, really hard because I have chronic pain, migraines, lots of different health ailments that show up for me. And there were days it was hard to get up. There were days where I didn't want to see the light because it was really hard to see the light. And so I had to dig really, really deep within myself to say, you know what? I have it within me. I have the power to be able to be grateful for what it is that I do have. I have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful family. I'm living today. I took a deep breath today. Appreciation and having gratitude, whether it's in the morning, in the afternoon, you're walking down the street, looking at the trees and being able to say the fact that, wow, I'm noticing that it is creating air for me. It's creating a visual for me, whatever it is, being part of nature. All of that, so, so important. The attitude of gratitude. Our attitude is what creates and sets our groundwork really for our day and then throughout our day. N, release any sort of negative thinking connected with the attitude of gratitude. If you are negative Nancy or negative Nick or whatever, it's really, I want to ask, you really got to check in with yourself and say, okay, so if every day I'm waking up and I'm judging somebody else or I'm being negative about something, then the reflection of that, flip the mirror around. because your reaction to whatever it is that's going on for you is just your reaction about yourself. Flip it around, take a look, because there's negative thinking that's going on. It means there's something within you that you need to feel and connect with that you're not happy with. We all have that. We just oftentimes don't necessarily have the feeling or the ability to be able to shift it like that. That's where having somebody else who might be able to help us reflect back or to hold space for us, right? Holding space is really someone who can sit there and listen to you. We need that. This is a supportive environment that we all need, I think, to really, again, create, that opportunity for us to be that very important person. Because when we don't have that support from those who are around us, the immediate circle that's around us, it makes it really, really hard. So if someone else, for example, is throwing guilt or shame or something else towards you, that's not yours, that's theirs. I know it's super, super hard at times to release any sort of negative perceptions, reactions, the thinking. It's focus. Again, systems, rhythms, daily practice. These are all really, really important to help us create that balance for ourselves. C, compassion and communication. Man, this was a big lesson for me. Compassion, compassion, compassion. I had a bad day. I was in pain. I had a migraine. I couldn't see a client. I couldn't work on a project. I wasn't working as fast as I could. I didn't have enough money. All the blah, 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 right? All that noise and chatter that gets us caught up in so many different things. I started to think I wasn't good enough. Started to think I was never going to be successful. But again, I had to shift back to the attitude of gratitude to be able to see that there is something that I am grateful for. There is something that I have been successful. I've been successful in XYZ, naming it. I had to name it. I had to claim it. I had to really share that. I had to be present. I had to just put it out there and say, yo, over here, remember this? Remember me? You are the only person in the room. Who are you? Remember that. Give yourself that love, kindness, and compassion. If you don't do it, you ain't getting it from somebody else. If you turn around and say about your mate, you're like, yo, you're not listening to me. You're not giving me the emotional support or connection or love that I feel and deserve. Okay. If I'm asking that from you, then I've got to give that to myself, because that's not fair in a way, right? If I'm asking you to give me that compassion, that communication, if I'm not willing to talk to myself, or if I'm not willing to give myself that self-compassion and appreciation that I so very well know that I deserve. Compassion and communication. By the way, I think we all need that, more of that every day. Everyone's going through different circumstances. No one may be different, worse, better than the other, even though many of us may have that perception. We're all going through something at some period of time, whether or not we say it or not. So having empathy and compassion, and certainly communication is really important. Okay, E, experience joy daily. Whoo! The key here at the end of the day is to experience joy daily. So I want you right now, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to imagine, what would life be like to experience joy daily? For many of us, this has never been anything that we've experienced. It's just a thought. It's just a dream. And when we think about manifestation on a daily basis, it's the combination basically of our imagination and our intuition together, right? Colette Baron Reed taught me that. And so for us, experiencing joy, what does it feel like? What does it look like? Have we felt it before? Have we experienced it before? And for some of us who have never, let's say, experienced that, we have an opportunity to create something new and start fresh and do something completely different. So define it, just like you have to define balance for yourself. Start over with that. Give yourself a baseline. It's all connected to those negotiables and non-negotiables, right? You're setting your boundary, you're setting your groundwork, all of that. Just like we meditate, right? Or just like we exercise, or just like we put, healthy food into our bodies, whether we do or not. These are all reminders. How do you want to treat yourself? How do you treat others? How do you treat yourself? So at the end of the day, when you're thinking about all of this, when it comes to experiencing joy, you have to feel it. You have to feel it to remember it. If you've never experienced it, go towards one example or one activity or something that you might want to experience that would make you feel like you were in joy, whatever that is for you. So, key things to keep in mind when it comes to that, especially when it comes to your physical, emotional, and mental health, your vitality, it's all connected to your own power, is really listening to your body. Listening to your body, connecting with your body, being present, focusing on stillness so that way you can notice these things. When we're moving, it's really hard to make ourselves a very important person because we're so stuck in the to-do list. We're so stuck in the to-do list. But the to-do list won't be happening if we don't put ourselves first and take care of ourselves, because we are the most important thing. We have lots of things to do. And along with that, it's important for us to also remember that we're here to step into our purpose. Humans on a mission. Let's go, right? So if any point you get stuck with any of this, this is where you ask yourself, why do I get up in the morning? And how do I want to make an impact? It starts with you. It starts with making yourself that very important person. So if you take anything away from today here, I want you to remember, start with the image of sitting in the chair in the room. That big chair that looks like it's fit for a king or queen. Feel what it's like to take care of yourself just like that. What would that be? What would you do? And I'm not talking about 5 things, 10 things. Taking care of yourself is free, right? Some of you are like, well, I need a massage. I need this. I need that. I gotta go hang out with my friends. That's free. We need people sometimes too. We need social connections and interactions. So for you, what is the one thing that you're going to do to support yourself as being a very important person? So I'm going to leave you with that today. I hope that you are going to go get your snow. That means you got to go buy something. Go get yourself a chair. Take your chair in your house or wherever your apartment or wherever you're living, and put it basically. You could even decorate it so that it seems as if it's that chair, whatever that image is. Find something, create something, put it somewhere so that there's a reminder that every day you have one thing to do. You have one thing to do. What is that one thing to do that you will do to connect you to you being that very important person so that you can continue to lead your life here on a mission? So thank you for joining me this week. I look forward to seeing you at our next episode with our new guest next week. I won't tell you who that is, but of course, another amazing guest. And don't forget to connect with me at soulsync.wellness.com. Or you can also connect with me on Instagram at Connie Canella. I'd love to engage with you and talk with you and find out how this episode supported you in definitely seeing, believing, and walking your path. Thank you. I'll see you next time.